Hello, money and banking students. We're now in week 4. If you think about it, after this week, we're actually halfway done with the course. So this course does move quickly, so just stay on top of things. This week, you're going to look at chapters 11, 12, and 13. Really, the focus is going to be on commercial banks this week. So a lot of time in your reading is devoted to that. First, just like in chapter 11, kind of a understanding of all the assets and liabilities of a commercial bank, some of the off-balance activity that they've engaged in over the years, but probably really just the meat and potatoes or nuts and bolts of what a commercial bank is. And then when we move to chapter 12, we look a lot more at the balance sheet and the income statement. And you're going to look at a lot of the financial ratios. In fact, later in the course, we get to week 7 when I asked you to write about a lot of this relative to how a bank is performing. So as you go through this readings this week, space it out, take your time. It is a little bit of a technical read, especially in the chapters, just kind of understanding where they're getting the information. So sometimes you have to go back to tables or figures to refer back to help you understand the concepts. And then last, chapter 13 talks about a lot of the regulations. What you're going to read about is a lot of the rules and the laws and changes. One thing I thought was interesting as I went through the reading too was when I was in the corporate world, we were not allowed to earn interest on checking accounts. And many of the laws have changed since then. And now you can't. Whereas before what we'd have to do, because we had checking accounts, very large dollar amounts, at the end of the day, we'd all sweep them into some interest-bearing account. But with the changes in the laws, you don't have to do that anymore. So there still might be some that do that, to invest in money market funds or money market mutual funds. But you're starting to understand now a lot of how a commercial bank operates. And again, the idea that the deposits are the liability for the commercial banks and the loans are the assets. And the relationship with that balance sheet and income statement are interwoven together. So depending on what they're doing, and as the text mentions, there's a lot more off-balance sheet activity that generates fees through trading or other activities or letters of credits or standby letters of credits, things they can do. This book was written about 2013. As you kind of go through some of your reading, it kind of hints that some of these things were requested to put into law, but maybe never ever happened. So, a lot of that is still a debate out there about how much regulation there should be in the commercial banking industry and investment banking. It's a balance, because it can cause a burden for banks to be profitable if there's so much regulation. Some regulation is good. A lot of the textbook talks about from consumer financial protection, but under this current administration, there's going to be some questions of whether that is something valid to have. Does this just add additional burden and cost, or does it help individuals that are misinformed? So there were a lot of reforms and rules after that, especially related to credit cards, you can remember, after this time period. Well, again, just make sure to stay on top of things. This week you do have your first exam. So as I said, the exam will pretty much follow the quizzes. Some things might be slightly different, but if you practice those quizzes and gone through and done one of those, that should translate for you additionally with studying, to do well in those exams. So make sure to set aside some time that you're without interruption to take that exam and have that done before Sunday at midnight. So if you have any questions, do send me questions via the course in the email. That way I check it via the course than my regular email. I only check that so often. But I want you to have a great week, and we'll talk to you online. Take care.